Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sree Iyer. Joining me today is Professor R. 𝗤𝗏𝗏 and we are talking about Europe. What is going on here? We've been talking about Eurobia. In fact, he coined that phrase 6-7 years ago when we had started out PGurus, and it's now more or less taken shape. But what is going on? The ultimate, breakdown of the whole Europe as an entity is happening now. And let's welcome Professor R. 𝗤𝗏𝗏. Professor RV, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel. How are you, sir?
Namaskar, vanakkam, namaste. Coming to think of it, it's an interesting type of a discussion because you are in Cambodia. I am in Bangalore.
Yes.
But we are talking about Europe.
Yes.
So that itself is a very interesting thing. I should tell our audience that Sree Iyer is in Cambodia and he is planning to do a program on Cambodia and various facets and other things, maybe in a couple of days from now onwards. He is planning to be there for another maybe 2 weeks.
No, sir, 4 or 5 days.
4 or 5 days. Okay. And so that's in other words, he is at 10 p.m. time zone. I am at 8 o'clock time zone. California may be morning 8 o'clock time zone. So
Right.
very interesting type of a world now we are in. That's what it shows. And in spite of all this, we are going to talk on Europe, which is having its own specific time zones and difficulties, right? And as Iyer was telling, quite a number of years before itself, I have been watching. I'm a Euro watcher, like bird watching. Euro watching I have been doing. I was in the National Security Advisory Board 1920, those days. I prepared a report and gave on Europe actually. I told Europe is in a severe crisis it is going to enter in the next 5 years. Of course, given the priorities of the 𝗔𝗍𝗍 at that point of time, this was not considered as one of the top items or anything. Anyhow, they kept it. They didn't. They were very amused actually because I told what could happen if there is a very major civil conflict within Europe. If India might also be asked to go and be a peacekeeping force, and that amused them like anything. That we going to, and I told that we should be very cautious before entering into such a. Anyhow, they all were not very what one can call serious about it at that point of time. 2015 onwards, I have been telling actually. I have been writing in my website and other thing. Now, Europe is in severe crisis now. Actually, if you think of it, the Spanish, the French, the German, and the Dutch, all of them are in deep crisis. German is a worst part of the crisis because it is also coupled with severe economic crisis to the extent of, German factories, manufacturing factories are closing down and their growth rate is significantly coming down. And what has happened is they had a no confidence motion against the Scholz current government. And no confidence motion has carried through. So they have to have election. The problem is the current Scholz party is having hardly 15% support only. And what is called in the mainland media as extreme right, that is the word coined by the mainland media. For mainland media, there is only a centrist party, left party, and extreme right. There are no right parties anymore, actually. So this is the extreme right party, AfD, alternate for Deutschland, and they are expected to, get significant number of seats in the so-called extreme right parties have a commonality. One is they want to have sovereignty of the individual European countries respected. That is the first thing. They are not very fond of this Brussels, what they call Brussels bureaucrats. That is one thing. Second is they are not enamored by this migration, borderless countries and all that rubbish. They are very much against migration, particularly the illicit migration and the migration which is taking place from North Africa and other war-torn countries in Middle East. And the third is they are not pronouncedly anti-Russian or anything. They would like to keep some amount of peace with USSR, and they have come out of that old what you may loosely call that mindset of Cold War. Fourth is all these so-called extreme right are significantly pro-Israel, and they would like Palestine, this Hamas, to release the hostages as well as come into some amount of peace negotiation with the Israel. They also would like Ukraine to go for peace talks with Russia. They are not very enthusiastic about giving huge amount of funds to Ukraine, which already has been given by many of these the current left government. So as it stands, in the coming new year 2025, we are going to have new governments in Germany, in almost all the G7 countries except our Italy, where Meloni is going to continue, and Britain, where it's very difficult to pronounce whether Starmer will continue or not, because he is already having only 20% of the support only, one of the lowest in the post-Second World War history in Britain. And in France, as of now, the Macron, whom I call Macron after his significant defeat in the polls, his party, he is appointed one prime minister who didn't last more than 2 months. So he has appointed another prime minister who might or might not last long. Macron has got term till 27, but I am skeptical. I am feeling that around 25, 26 itself he may quit because of the growing pressure against him as well as his unpopularity. Scholz is gone, as I told you. He is not. He may not even run again for the chancellorship. So that is a sort of a broad situation. Now, what is the thing is, there is a significant amount of indebtedness by most of these countries. Now, for instance, Schroeder was the Chancellor of Germany in 2000, actually, and there was a lot of talk about Y2K and other thing, if some of you may recall. Indians played a very major role in that. I do not know whether I told about it earlier. Schroeder announced a scheme by which he wanted to have 10,000 Indians. Yeah. Yes.
During that Y2K crisis, India got rediscovered, sir, by the rest of the world.
Yeah. That's one of the reasons why he announced a scheme. 10,000 Indians he wanted to have on green card basis for 5 years in Germany, what is called a work permit. And then after 5 years, they can come back to India or, continue in some other countries or something. This was a scheme evolved. And then he wanted every 5 years this to be rotated, in the sense another 10,000 like that. And there is one Joseph Strauss, that time, he is no more actually. He was the head of the Bavaria Christian Union. In Europe, very interesting, you can have a political party with name starting with Christian. While as in India, if you have any political party with name starting with Hindu, you might be banned, or the entire Western media will pounce on you as being what one can call extremist and other thing. Anyhow, this Joseph Strauss, whom to say, is something like Lalu Prasad Yadav in India. He is a sort of a man with maverick, and he did a campaign all over Germany against Schroeder. He told this India scheme is dangerous. India will come and take away our kinder, our jobs completely, our children job. Like that he was, and then actually his propaganda was all over the world in politics. It is much more important how many times you tell a lie rather than whether you tell a lie or not. How it is able to influence. Schroeder lost the poll, that thing, and that scheme was given up. Later, Merkel came into chancellor. She is, of course, people say because she was there for 10 years, people have all sorts of appreciation for her. She's a very, very average, what one can call middle class lady, without any clue to global situation. She started this borderless, allowing all these immigrants into Germany. She told multiculturalism will prevail. And then 1 week before retirement, she announced after 10 years that multiculturalism has failed in Germany. He told, I realize it's not possible for certain type of cultures, which he meant actually the Islamic culture, to merge with our German type of a culture, which is predominantly Protestant culture. Anyhow, she became, when she became chancellor, she opened up the border. And then the floodgate started. Huge number of these migrants began to get into Germany. Many of them from North Africa, many of them are from Middle East and war-torn countries, and none of them is having any significant amount of skills or anything. Most of them only have brown collar skills, not even blue collar. Brown collar, I mean in terms of garbage removal or lawn mowing, picking of grapes from the fields, that type of jobs. And others are simply living on Germans, what you may loosely call charity. Same thing happened in France. France, the amount of migrant is so phenomenal. There are so many areas in Paris as well as in other parts of France, which are called no-go areas. That means the cops don't go into those places at all. There, the local population, what is called in their language, they say that Jamaat will take care of all the law and order, every type of an issue and other thing. This is a very, very big issue, and it is being talked about in France for quite some time now, because there is a French Islamic medical fraternity, there is a French Islamic teacher fraternity. Similarly, there is a French Islamic police fraternity who will only take care of their own areas and other things. So this is, and Le Pen, who represent the so-called far right in France, has been campaigning, and she won significant number of seats. But this Macron, what he did was very interesting. In the second round of polling, he came into an agreement with extreme left, and in most of the constituencies it was 1-to-1 between the conservative and the left, extreme left, as well as the moderate left, as well as the middle, other center. They all schemed against her. Yeah.
I think they were withdrawals also. They basically withdrew from the contest.
Yeah, they all schemed against. In other words, they tried to put one candidate who will get all the votes against Le Pen. That was the sort of a deal they came into, and she could not get a full majority in the House. But that's a very, very tricky way of doing business. But the same Macron is now finding it very difficult to appoint a proper prime minister who will be acceptable to the left, extreme left, what they call the France Unbowed party, and the right. Anyhow, so that is what has happened there. So the migrant pressure has increased. Now, for instance, in France, they say officially there is something like 12% is the Islamic population. But many statistics or many other reports suggest it could be as high as 25 to 30%. And in some localities, it could be 30%, some clusters or some areas. So there is a very major shift, demographic shift Yeah.
So these people are all on benefits. Most of them are on benefits. So the
Yeah.
government should be able to give very accurate statistics, sir. Why are they trying to kind of gloss over it?
No. You see, there are several dimensions to the problem. They are called undocumented first. And all their statistics is not shared. Even when they get some benefits, it is not fully shared, their statistics. This is a series going on in the French TV now. There is a huge amount of discrepancy between the data which is being having with the immigration department and the data which is being used by the charity, those who are providing them the benefits and other thing. There was a big issue, complicated, and it has got some places the local court say you can't ask more information under the sort of privacy protection and other thing. All sorts of problems are there. So they don't have and there are several strictly illegal people who have also come in the sense they don't have any papers or nothing, and they don't even get the government gratis. They survive on other friends and other thing, as well as they get jobs mean all this as I told you, brown collar jobs. For instance, an example could be lot of Catholic churches are facing problem today in France as well as in Germany, even in US, because there are not very many number of people joining seminaries. And in the 50s, people used to join seminaries in thousands, believe me. Today it is only in 80, 90, like that. Numbers are not even 100. So nunnery and seminaries are not crowded. The point I want to stress is these were people who are doing all the local labor in terms of keeping the church clean, in terms of washing the vessels, in terms of mowing the lawn. If you have visited any European church, you know what I am talking about. It's such a huge property, some massive property, and it's not very easy to maintain it on a spec and clean basis on a daily, unless you have huge amount of, and paid labor is extremely expensive for these people who the church. The labor is officially, if you want to hire the white labor, you have to pay very high. So what happened is many a time the undocumented people, the illegals are employed and they are paid a pittance. They are many a time they are provided with some food and some sort of a medicines and other thing. That's all. So this is another, and that's one of the reason many of the churches are extremely for getting these migrants, both in US as well as in Europe. So this is a separate type of a issue, and many of them, sleep in the church itself, and their numbers are never revealed, never told, or anything like that. And the cops also are reluctant to gate crash into a church and then ask about all this. So this is, and RC, Roman Catholic, is much more aggressive in this compared to other type of churches. RCs have traditionally been for borderless societies. They would like people from Africa. Even today, the Pope is arguing in terms of benefiting many of these immigrants and other things. Anyhow, that's for the number game. Other than that, there are two major crises. One is the children born out of wedlock is phenomenal in most of these countries. In my school days, they used to be called bastards, but now I cannot call them like that in Europe or US situation. It's called a new normal. That's what New York Times says. The ability of Americans to coin new terminology is something I always appreciate. They will not use the old, for instance, killing a terrorist, they will say delete, he has been deleted. And for them, it's a good terrorist as well as a bad terrorist. A good terrorist is only a rebel or is a militant or something. A bad terrorist, of course, is a terrorist. So like that, there is a terminology. So this is called new normal. What is this? The births outside wedlock. It's roughly 50% in US. And in other countries like UK, it is 51%. France, it is 55%. Denmark, 52%. All of them are above 50%. Chile, something very interesting, is 70%. Whereas if you come to this side, Asia, Japan, it is 2%, and India, it is 1.5%. What is called births outside wedlock. Basically, what these are single parent family. Single parent means not single father, it's all single mother only. And in UK, for instance, as some in the interview, somebody told it's an investment having kids, particularly these type of kids. Why? Because they get something like 250 pounds per child. If you have 4 of them, you get 1,000. And if you go to work as a brick kiln worker or something, you get 750 pound only. So there is a huge gap between the two. So it is much better to produce children and sit at home and get the benefit of the government. And another thing is, most of these children, unfortunately, lack of father. This is something very critical. Some of you may know that at a very, very young age, father is used as a what one can call controlling variable. Mom will say, father will come, I will tell him. Appa will come, I will tell him another. So the child at that age thinks that Appa is very, very critical. Appa is the controlling factor in the family. But as the child grows up, he knows really who is controlling the family. That's a different issue that we will not get into. But at that age, so what happened in the lack of father creates its own issues in terms of control, in terms of his development and other things. Many a time these kids get into gangs and what are known as the drugs and illicit arms. So many type of things they get into, and they are not very useful or productive. Unfortunately, they don't even join guilds or they don't go for skilled type of education, fitter, plumber, carpentry, and that type of a thing. In the 80s, those guilds used to be full of youngsters, and the demand was much, much higher than the supply. Today, supply is much, much higher than the demand. In US, there is a study actually. Wherever there is a bushfire, as it is called, local level criminal activity and gang fights and other things, most of that is due to this single parent family thing. Actually, in UK, in the 2010, if I recall, that kids did a big violent looting of shops and other kids. I mean, 6 years to 15 years in that age. They all went on rampage for 2 days. I was in Manchester at that time. The police didn't shoot them or anything because they are all kids. The shop people didn't know what to do. And in Manchester, I was there. One shop was not touched by these kids. That was a bookshop because that is of no use for any of these looters. So they left it at that. Then the British government constituted a commission. The report is there in the net. The Archbishop of UK was the head of the commission. They, as usual, like India, they had their own discussion and other thing. After that, the commission report was released in 2013 or something, 12 or 13. The first sentence is, the sovereignty of the family is dead in UK. This is the first sentence. Sovereignty of the family. In other words, the parents are not in a position to tell the kids, don't go and riot in the road, riot in the street, don't steal from supermarket, don't take away goods from supermarket and other things. And it also told there are a number of households with more television sets than with husbands in UK. So the UK has got more households with the TV rather than with husbands. India, actually, we did a study in Tamil Nadu around 2005. That time we found out there are more households with the TV rather than toilet. Toilet is not considered as a major advantage or major requirement. But TVs, since they were given free by the government, they were all available. So in UK, it is the other way, more TVs than husbands. So there is a huge social crisis in terms of the society itself in all these G7 countries. And their TFR is total fertility rate is relatively low. This we saw earlier also. It's almost all countries below 2. And that's one of the reasons why this migration was encouraged and other thing. But unfortunately, they got the wrong persons to migrate, not the right person to migrate. And youth unemployment is very severe in these countries. In 2023, last year data, the Spain unemployment is 29%, Portugal 21%, Italy 25%, France 20%. So whole euro area is 15%. So youth mean age between 16 and 24. Because in India, even 56 years we consider a youth icon, youth leader and other thing. So in adjacent state Tamil Nadu, there is a party whose youth leader was 73-year-old. So he was considered as a youth leader. So the definition of youth in India is very flexible. Even I can be termed as youth. It doesn't matter as long as Iyer agrees for that. So there it is 16 to 24. Why the statistics is important? These are prone to violence. If you are unemployed at 55, you will go to church or you will pray to God and you will read a Bible or you will read Gita or something. But if you are unemployed at 16 to 20, you might go to the street and throw stones. So you are prone to more disturbances and other things. So the unemployment situation is very bleak, and coupled with that, they have a phenomenal amount of budgetary deficit. Many of them are fudging their account. For instance, Italy is quietly telling their deficit is 2.5 to 3% only, which is acceptable by the Brussels. But actually, Italy deficit, believe me, is 6 to 7%. And this has been found out by the Brussels bureaucrats after 2-year lag or something, that they are fudging their accounts. The countries are fudging their account in order to prove themselves to be. And many of these countries are not anymore enthusiastic about the central regulatory body at Brussels. Already Hungary is very unhappy about it. There is a group called the Patriots of Europe. So they all want to have the sovereignty asserted and other things. So multi-dimensional crisis has enveloped Europe. It's a migrant crisis. It's a crisis of trying to prop up Ukraine, which they have not succeeded, and it is a political crisis in terms of unstable government, and all the countries, far right, so-called far right parties are on the ascendancy. In 2025, don't be surprised if significant number of these European countries are ruled by far right parties. And the far right is the terminology used by the mainstream media currently. And it doesn't really mean they are far right. They are all respecting their national sovereignty. They want to go back to 1648 Habsburg time, wherein the what one can call the coordination after the war of the Catholics and Protestant and various other denomination was ended. They came into an understanding that sovereignty of the country is very important and that should be respected. And in the Iraq war, that was thrown out. That was told no, it is required, or if it is required, this quote unquote, the civilized West will interfere with the countries which are having problem, and the civilized West, again they told, will try to solve the problems of these countries. So the 1648 understanding was completely removed. They went into Iraq, they made so much weapons of mass destruction, not even one bottle of hydrochloric acid they could find in Iraq. They created chaos, that's all. Nothing more or nothing less. Now Europe is feeling so much amount of effort and funds are spent, even in the case of Ukraine. But what is the net benefit we are having? And individual European countries, inflation is a major problem. Cost of living is increasing, and most of the citizens are not very enthusiastic about these wars, which are funded by them. Basically, funding mean what? Don't think that Ukraine gets all the money. When US says 200 million is given, it's not given to Ukraine. It is given to the defense production factories in US, who will produce weapons and send it to Ukraine. So this is what is happening, and this is not very much liked by most of these European countries. And even whatever little we understand, even Donald Trump is not enthusiastic about it, along with his two important advisors on government spending, Musk and this Vivek Ramaswamy. So we have to wait and see. In the end of January, he is going to take over. He is not a very enthusiastic warmonger. He wants to stop all this war, and then he wants to be more inward looking. So Europe is not very worried. As long as Europe is not going to significantly affect his plans and other things, I think he will, leave Europe, even if it is so-called extreme right parties come to power or something. So this is the situation. It is irretrievably going into chaos. The only wish or only hope is there is no major civil conflict which is inside Europe between illegal migrants and the other population, or between the extreme left, France Unbowed and Germany type of parties, who are, what you may call complete wokeism parties, who don't believe in man, woman, but who think that there are several genders in between, that type of parties, and others. So if social conflict becomes very major, then Europe is in severe issue of internal warfare. Mark my word. And at that time, UN has to interfere. UN has to ask, and it cannot ask other armies from Middle East countries or Pakistan, because one of the participant in the conflict could be the illegal immigrants from North Africa and Middle East portion. So India may be a good candidate which may be tapped. US would not be enthusiastic at all, not definitely Trump, because in US this equation is simple. One body bag which comes into New York, what one can call airport, JFK airport, one body bag may cost significantly in terms of electoral votes. I think Iyer will agree with me on that.
Very true.
Given today's attitude of US, they are not going to say, unlike the Vietnam time and other thing, let hundreds of our youngsters go and die. They would say, why should we? If at all, they would prefer to sit and press buttons and send weapons and win wars. That is the very least they would do. And in European conflict, they can't do that also, because it is a place where a lot of these whites are also there. When they press button, when the bomb goes to France, it's not going to distinguish between North African migrant and the local French citizens. So this is going to be a very complicated thing. Countries like India might be tapped, and we have to be very careful. We should not. We have an uncanny ability to die for other people's causes. This is something very, very interesting. India has always done that. actually. I remember the English commander was asked, will you win the German war? He told, till the last Indian we will fight this war. This is what he mentioned. So he was so confident. Till the last Indian we will fight the war. So we should not be getting too much entangled into that. Let's wait and see how does this, how it develops over the period of next 2-3 years. Situation is not good, I can tell you that much. All over the place, everywhere it is a sort of a tense situation. France not able to have their government, and Germany, it has to go for the new pole. Every one of these countries are having their own difficulties. In France, there is a Le Pen, a lady, and in this Italy, there is another lady who is also considered to be far right. And Germany, AFD, one lady is there, Sylvia. She is coming up, even though she is lesbian, but she is still a very powerful lady. And Denmark, there is another lady. I think these 4 ladies of far right are going to guide the future of Europe. Whenever, what else to do? Because men are all in the pubs and they are not very useful in Europe. Finally, the women only have to come and save Europe. Let's wait and see how it develops. How it, according to me, there is a significant amount of war clouds over Europe. Europe itself may not fully recognize it, but it is the factual situation there. The only person is in Netherlands who is going on telling about these issues of the migrant and the problems created by the migrants. But let's see how it develops in the next 2 to 3 years, possibly. That's all. Okay.
Thank you, sir. And viewers, we will be only able to take a few questions because of some tight schedules for us. So let's take as few, we are going to take 2 or 3 questions. Sorry about that. Let's take the first question, please. 𝗥𝗘𝗙𝗥𝗚𝗻, thank you so much for becoming YouTube member.
Oh, okay. And there is somebody told he became a German. He got a German working visa around.
Just an observation. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. 𝗤𝗍𝗧. And sir, slowly risk-taking appetite of Hindus is coming down, which is a great concern, whereas M's are, for Muslims, it is increasing.
No. Hindus are, there is nothing called a risk-taking appetite or anything. And at least in the share market, they have phenomenal amount of appetite and lose money. So you cannot complain on that score. And I think we have to have a balance in terms of our approach. We will have another discussion on that. Today, actually, RSS head has cautioned about trying to find one shivling under every mosque. So he says, when he says something, we have to listen. In the sense, it's a 100-year-old organization with thousands of branches all over the country. So he would have got feedback from every one of his regional, and so we will have another discussion under Iyer's aegis on this issue. Right? Okay.
Sir, thank you so much, sir. Next one, please. Thank you for Gulsara for your
thank you very much. Gulsara. Okay.
Next one,
MYR means what?
I think Malaysia's ringgit.
Malaysian, okay. I was one of those 19,000 who were given green card, right?
Yeah.
That is the Siani Billy. Okay. Thank you.
And that brings us to a close of today's program. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar. Thank you, sir. We'll be seeing you soon.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for the audience. You remind them again if you want about Sengol before you close.
Yes. Viewers, Sengols are the current shipment of Sengols in India is out. We have almost shipped everybody. You will be getting them in the next couple of days. You're getting WhatsApp numbers on your WhatsApp numbers, notifications about this. So you can look forward to that. And we will be opening the window again to take the next set of Sengols. Please do support us in this endeavor. We have a lot of people who have expressed interest. We'd like to continue to do that. And if you can take a picture of how you are putting it, mounting it on your wall and send it to us, we will be happy to share it on our programs. Thank you once again, sir. Namaskar.
Thanks a lot, Sachin.